Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Shane from SuperCon. I am super excited for our next guest when the fabulous and legendary and former SuperCon guest Jill Thompson says, "Go get this gal for your convention." And that's a stamp of approval that I'm going to stand behind 100%. So I'm blessed, I'm lucky, I'm excited to introduce you to Maria Wolf Lopez. Welcome, Maria, and thank you for joining us.
Hello. Nice to meet everybody.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
talked to Jill about coming back. I talked to Jill about coming back, and she had some things going on, but right away, out of her lips came your name. How
Oh,
did you meet Jill? What's your relationship with
I actually went to school. I went to the International School of Comics here in Chicago, and Jill Thompson was the teacher. And yeah, she was my teacher for second year and third year. I knew her too previously because I would go to C2E2 and other conventions, and I saw her there. So, we got to know each other way before the school part, but we became closer friends and, our buddies too. So I'm really happy that she recommended me to this con, to you,
No, yeah, yeah. No, she's a joy. She is a spitfire, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But so you went to art school. You went to a specific art school for comic books.
Yes, I went to 3 years for the Comic College, the International School of Comics. I went there. It was great experience. Wonderful people there too. I would have not learned a lot what I know now. Really big on business. Like my parents tell me too, and a lot of other people tell me like you didn't need college. I'm like, you know what? You might be right. I didn't need it because I would have, done comics on my own, but I don't think I would have done it fast enough. It would have probably taken me a couple of more years to figure it out, where I was heading towards or what I really wanted to do. But, college helped me out. It helped me get to the right people, connect with the right people too, figure out what kind of artist I want to be, what stories I wanted to tell, and to properly, sell myself to, the comic industry, the fans,
Yeah.
it was greatest decision I ever made, really, and I don't regret doing it. And one of the biggest things was paying it all off, and I did. So, woo!
Good for
So,
you. Good for you.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think one of the, outside looking in as a fan, we say, oh, look, they have this great thing. They get to, draw and play with superheroes and play with characters all day. But there is a very strong business side to it. You have to know what to sell, who to sell, what your portfolio looks like. I mean, that's part that I don't think we as fans see so much. So, yeah, what's the biggest takeaway you took from that as far as the business side, Maria?
Um, well, a lot of things. Well, one, it's when you do conventions, it's really about, well, are you gonna willing to take the risk on what products you want to use? So, and like I said, the business sense, like you see what your teachers do and you see their tables, and they tell you start to observe what are other people selling. And every convention's different. Some conventions I could sell like $300 worth of stickers, but then other conventions I sell like 50 prints and no stickers at all. So it all varies, but you learn. And like I said, it's all business. You got to sell yourself. You got to learn how to be a proper, artist, how to talk to people. That's the general thing. Smile and, be positive, and to get people to come towards you. How does your panel look? How does your comic book stand look? Do I want my comics here? Do I want my prints all the way in the back? The eye catcher, I use usually giant paintings. People use those giant, what are those
Yeah,
stands in
yeah,
the
yeah.
back?
Banner.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what? At the time, every time I'm running for a convention, I'm always late when it comes to a banner. And by the time it gets to that point, I'm like, what giant painting do I have I could put in the background and, and play it off?
Right,
But
right.
yeah,
Yeah, but
that's
that's
the
got to
one
catch
thing.
people's eye.
Oh yeah, I have because I also do giant woodcuts too. The biggest I have is about
Oh, wow.
4 feet, So almost as tall as me, about 4 feet, 4.5. So yeah, and that I learned from another cool teacher too when I was younger at After School Matters. It's a program here in Chicago and teaches young youth like different art skills and the same thing too, business, how to present yourself. It's really fun. It really is. And I've used those skills that I learned from when I was in high school to now doing comics. So it's good. It's good that, you know, when people commission me, it's not for just comics. I could give people who say, "Oh, I want a painting." I'm like, "Okay, I could give you a painting because I've done it many a times before."
Sure. Yeah. So you are, I mean, comic book creators are independent contractors. I mean, people think, well, it's DC or Vertigo or Marvel, but you're independent contractors. You're out there hustling for the next job, for the next gig, presenting your ideas. So what's it like presenting and collaborating and getting your product out there, Maria?
Well, it's actually, well, it's depending, because each collab is very different. I tell everybody, if you're doing comics, you're naturally just going to collab with a bunch of people, unless you're doing everything yourself, which, you know, it takes forever. But I always recommend people to try to cut so much work from your back. So if you could find somebody who could be an inker or a colorist or a letterer, you know, it makes the job so much easier. But it's all collaboration. You finish one thing and you pass it to the next person, and then they get it, and then the next person and the next person. So it's all a teamwork, and it's a really good effort. Like I said, you don't make yourself go too crazy. Sometimes, you know, that's why I usually, when I do comics or short stories, I stop with just pencils and inks. After that, I'm like, yeah, you're gonna have to hire somebody else because I'm not gonna do that other stuff. I have too much on my, you know, on my table. I can't, because I get I get writers who are like, oh yeah, you can do all of this. I'm like, no, I can't do that, especially in the timeline you want it. So like they'll say like, oh yeah, give me like 12 pages in like a month or within 2 months, and they want super detailed artwork, and I'm like, look, I can only pencil and ink. After that, get somebody else who can color, because you know it's going to take me even longer, because those are not my strongest my traits. So that's why I said, if you're not good at those things, it's great to have people who are better trained at that stuff too. But yeah, and the collaboration too, like if you make really good friends, really good writers, then you start promoting. You know, you do those variant covers, you do those special sketches for them, you know, your signatures in those things too. And you sell. You tell people, hopefully if you have a big fan base, you also help the person that hired you too, especially when they're like really new writers or, you know, new artists, and they need, you know, the extra boost. So it helps. I have some fans. It's great. You know, every time I do like a short story or I'm doing this new project, there are people out there like, oh, I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna buy it because, you know, your name's on it, and it's like a 6-page,
That's awesome,
you know, short story, but they want it because my name's on it, which helps the sales with the writers I worked with. So yeah.
yeah. You have such you have such a unique presence even in your social media. You exude joy. You come across as a very energetic person, even through social media, Maria. And talking to you, I love this, that you're I can feel your passion for what you do. And I think that's so important, and it comes through in your artwork. I mean, your artwork is energetic, it explodes off the page.
Oh, well, that's really nice. I mean, that truly does mean a lot. Thank you so much. I've naturally been that kind of person. You know, I have people who come and tell me, you know, how do you deal with it? And I'm backed up. Don't trust me when it comes to artwork and jobs. I am crazy backed up on it. But I always feel if anytime I break or I start to feel really negative, then I'll lose everything. Nothing goes as planned. Um, Nobody gets their artwork. And my job as an artist is to be passionate with every little line I put into my drawings, right? Especially when I do commissions. When I give somebody, when they tell me their idea. And then they tell me, oh, well, I want this because I know you're going to make it badass, right? I know you're going to make it super wicked and detailed. Well, then I feel like that's my job naturally. They see that as me already. So to feel negative and not want to do art, I'm not going to give them the best picture that they want. They hired me, and I want to make it what they dream, what they desire it to be, you know. And yeah, that's why I try to be optimistic, positive. I have a crazy life, you know. Sometimes when something bad happens, I don't worry about it, because in the end, something good's going to come out of it, you know. I keep moving forward. I'm a firm believer that, you know, what's done is done. You can't change the past. You got to keep moving forward, right? And
That's right.
that's
right.
just that's my logic for everything. You just keep moving forward.
Who have been some of your inspirations, Maria? Some artists that you look up to that have maybe influenced some of your style? I mean, you have a very unique style. I can't think of anyone in my 52 years that you look like, which I think is important. You have your style. But I think that all great creators, whether they want to or not, you pull influence from somewhere. Who are some of the people who have influenced you, Maria?
Well, you know, I always tell people I am inspired by a lot of people, but I don't look up to a lot of people. The reason why is that I'm a firm believer that as an artist, you should enjoy other people's artwork, but you shouldn't want to be like them. They have their own success and they have their own stories too. Now it's your turn, right? So you have to make your own style and be your own thing. But you are right about that. I feel like every artist does a Frankenstein thing, where if I like a certain artist, the way they draw their eyes or the way they draw their hands, I subconsciously, even though I don't physically like forcing it, I subconsciously start to mimic it into my drawings. So now my art style changes, and it has a little bit of this and a little bit of that. You know, a lot of people tell my art, it varies. I have like over multiple artists, people say, oh, like, oh, you look like this. So, oh, you look like that person. And I'm like, okay, I don't feel so bad about it. I always say that if you can remember my style through that person, then that means at least the next time you think about that person, you'll probably think about me at one point. So there is a positive to that. The two artists, I'd say, they're my top two. My top two, I grew up with them as a kid, and they're tied. They're tied. It's Joe Mad. I freaking love his art style. I grew up with the Battle Chasers. I love Battle Chasers, especially when he started doing I think it's Uncanny X-Men, and then he did and then when he broke out to his own thing as Darksiders, I was like, oh, this is a great artist. I really love his big concept design. He's a big detailed artist. He loves to do his own world. He likes to do his own designs. I love that. That to me, that's unique. And he also is the cusp between comic books and manga, so he's a big anime nerd too. And you know, it's with his buddy too, Humberto Ramos. So he's great too, the Amazing Spider-Man. Oh my goodness. And those two guys are best buds. No, you see.
Very stylized.
Right. And
very stylized, very avant-garde, and very manga.
Right. And when I was a kid, I like comic books, don't get me wrong. But when I saw those two artists, I thought, wow, these guys are so different. You know, they don't want to be like everybody else. They have a unique style. They put what they enjoyed, which was manga and anime, they put into their comics, which created their own style. And they just created some awesome things. Ramos did Crimson, that vampire comic. Oh man, I grew up with that one. I love it. It's good. I just bought the giant collector's book, so I can't wait till that comes by. And then like I said, Joe Mad is just crazy. I've been supporting him since I was a kid, and still to this day. Those are my two heroes. And then what really got into comics, or gave me the belief that I can be very successful, was Jill Thompson. I'm not gonna lie to you. When I went to the International School of Comics, they had like an interview. They wanted to see who you were. And Jill tells me, oh, come over here. Let me see your portfolio. And then I show her. And she was really, really interested in the unique style I had. And she bought a painting from me, a small, like, cardboard painting I had. It was a fox, a kitsune. And she bought it. She gave me a paycheck. That was the first time anybody has ever bought artwork from me physically. I mean, I've given people artwork, but nobody's ever bought artwork from me. So when she bought it from me, that's, the little light bulb in my head, went bing. And it told myself, you know what? I think this is the career you should go into. I think you should really push yourself to be a comic book artist, or push yourself to get into this school and be successful out of it. Learn everything you can and be one of the, biggest or newest artists that's going to come into this century, right? Into this generation. So definitely, I'd say those are my top 3 people who push me to either be more stylized, to believe in myself, and to be me. Truly just be me as an artist. And yeah, I mean, there's so many other artists out there, like I said, all of them unique artists, all of them with great styles. And there's a list I could go on, but those would have to be my top 3 people. Yeah.
Yeah, and a very, very unique list. I mean, there's 3 very big styles in those 3. And your energy, it makes sense that Umberto and Joe Mad, they have that explosion off the page, much like your own artwork. Now, yours is different. I'm not saying that there's a copy, but it's that same sense of urgency and motion that you capture so well, Maria.
Oh yeah, man, I'm glad. I love when people get to tell me what I'm trying to draw on, a piece of paper. And I always feel like if you can guess what I'm thinking, then I'm doing my job right. If you feel like it's badass, if you feel like, wow, this is massive, this is just in your face, then I did my job. I always feel like that's how I know my art's, done for the day, that you're just like, wow, I want it. I'm like, okay, I did it.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. Maria, how important is representation of your culture in your artwork? Because I'm super excited about this. Growing up in South Dakota, I grew up on a Native American reservation. I love the style, I love the culture, every part of it. And how important is representation for you in your artwork?
Oh, yeah, that's a really good question. Well, it's depending. When I do comics with female characters, especially like my culture, being the women there are very tough, very strong women. They take care of their kids.
Yeah.
The men are also very hardworking too, right? And everything is very, in a sense, they're big storytellers. They have this, the life of them. Everything is colorful. Everything is bright. Everything is very warm in a sense, right? Everybody wants you to come and join them, right? And I think every time I do a comic book, or I do like a very strong female character, I always make her as strong, as intense and scary as you can, because the women over there are pretty intense and scary. And some women, they'll chew you out.
Right now, I mean, let you know.
You don't play games with them, right? They'll beat you up. But
quick too.
Right? I mean it. You say one wrong thing and right away it's with the chancla. They'll beat you. And they'll chase you around. I'm not lying to you. They will chase you around. They're not going to just say smack in the other room. No. If you say something and walk away, you better run, because they're most likely going to come right in your face. But yeah, I mean,
and there's.
So when I try to put my no, you go first.
Go ahead. No, I really respect that.
Yeah. No, that's good.
I'm respect
glad.
that, Maria, because there is it is a very maternal culture of strong women who multi-generational care for the entire, not just family, but cousins, uncles, aunties, and you don't have to be blood to be family. You know, it's
Right,
just you are now part of mine, right? It's beautiful.
right. Which I'm 100%. I mean, you've seen already, and if you see my media too, I'm a very, very family friend oriented person. If I like you and you treat me right, I'm going to treat you right just as bad. I'll probably even be more, more giving than you ever imagine. I'll be there by your side. And growing up, that's how my family has always been. That's how a lot of my friends are. I choose the right people to be in in my pack, in my wolf pack, right?
Yeah.
But when I do comics, right? You get it? When I do comics, I want those females to be strong. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of times my comics are very in your face. Like when I did Dear Woman, you could see a couple of pages, you see a woman getting beaten up and it's brutal, and I did like some other short stories and people are getting beat up and it's brutal. And you're like, wow, some people can't take it. It's right in your face. But never those people who get beat up ever fall. If you notice, they always rise up. They rise up to the
Yes.
occasion
Right.
and they get back on their feet and they're ready to fight back. And I've always wanted to interpret that for women, and not just that, for indigenous women too, for a lot of Latino women. So One Dear Woman was one of my stories that I really, really wanted to show that it's, not to be scared at the situation that you go through in life, to fight back, to stand up at the challenge, and to fight for your life, for your survival. It's a really big thing. I think that's I interpret that too with my art. That's why I'm always a constant go-getter. That's why I'm a constant, I need to make this the next really intense thing, really big, really detailed, because the moment I lack, the moment I fall behind, I'm going to lose. That's how I see it. But like I said too, and usually whenever I do like a native story, or whenever I'm doing like a small illustration too, I get a lot of information. People help me. They give me the information too. I study. I get into that culture. I understand different native tribes, because there's so many around the world. And then, hopefully one day I'll get to do stories of, where I'm from. And there's so many little stories and there's so more to learn, especially because there's not a lot of information of my tribe. And I had to go to Mexico and look for old photos and find old stories. And it's really sad when you have to start over from start, point A, and you got to go all the way to point Z. And that's the sad thing. It's the sad thing too when you don't have family members who want to keep spreading, the roots or the stories or the traditions, and it dies off. And so that's why slowly I'm even trying to bring it back. I'm trying to learn the language too, because I don't want it to die. And that's why hopefully in the near future I can make comic books that deal more with my tribe, more with the stories I tell, so that people can know the stories and those stories don't die off, those
Right.
traditions don't
Right.
die off.
Yeah, Maria, and it's such a storytelling is such a large part of that culture. I mean, it's
Yes.
passed down from generation to
Hmm.
generation. So you to be a curator of that and to create from that, that's amazing. I applaud you for that. I mean, seriously, because that because it's when we forget the past that we repeat the mistakes of the past.
Right. Right.
You know, I want to address your what you were talking about in Dear Woman. You know, there's a realism, and I think that at its best, that comic books and graphic novels, manga, anime, any of those forms, at their best, we're going to show you the brutal side of life, but we're also going to show you hope. Right? We're going
Right.
to show you that you can survive this. We'll show you that you can rise up. I mean, every great story, whether that be Batman losing his parents or Peter Parker losing Uncle Ben, there's tragedy, but there's hope at the end. You rise above it. So
Yep.
I applaud your realism. I think that's wonderful.
Thanks. Hey, you know what? It's funny because when I go to conventions or when people message me, I get the two sides of it. One is, well, like, wow, that's really intense. I didn't expect that, but I like the story in the end. And then the other people who are like, hell yeah, she's fighting back. I love this. or sometimes I've gotten people who are like, oh, this is way too violent. And, I understand. There's some people out there who will tell you, like, oh, violence against women should have been shown, violence against people. Like I said, I truly understand. But I guess it's because I grew up seeing that firsthand. To me, and that's the sad thing. When you have those stories that talk about truth, it's very truthful and it hits you. And the reason why it makes people really uncomfortable because they know it's real and they just don't want to hear anything about it, So my job is to shove it in your face and tell you it exists. Right?
Right. Well, what do we gain by ignoring it? I mean, we don't get anything by ignoring it. And these stories of empowerment, of women rising up, of people of color rising up, of women rising up, of embracing your inner strength, those are stories that we need to hear. Like we can have a million stories of the good guy always wins in the end, and the bad guy gets their proper punishment. We'll live in that damn world, man. We live in a real world, and we need to see people rising up for their own justice and for their own beliefs and for their own identity. And that's what you bring, and it's amazing. And man, I hope people go out and pick up Dear Woman. I hope they get the anthologies because they're powerful stories, and from your voice, that's where they need to be heard. Because I've seen it. I can't write it from your point of view. No one else can. It needs to be written from people who have lived through it and experienced it. Right. That's when it's real. Yeah. That's when it's real.
No, yeah, I totally. And I'm really happy I got to be a part of that. It was so hard too, because when you see the other stories, it's a lot of, it's a really good book. It's about spiritualism. It's about people finding who they are. It's about people who are rising. And then I'm like the really violent one. So I'm just like, yeah, I'm just gonna go. Just like, yeah, let's make this really violent. Add some wolves, there's gonna be blood and a massacre. It's all good. It's all good. Don't worry, guys. But there's a good, there's a good point to it. Yeah. It's just, I wanted to make it different.
Well, but different is unique, right? Different is your voice. Everybody telling the same story. I mean, sure, we're all influenced by old stories. I mean, how many different stories have there been, Through the Looking Glass or Through the Closet Door or Flipping Worlds? Right? There's a million of those, but it's your perspective and it's your take on it that makes it special. Stories exist, forever, but how you view them through your lens and through your culture and through your life experiences are what make it real. And that's the connection that I think, as we become more sophisticated in our reading, I think that's the stories that I'm drawn to, at least, and the people that I congregate with are drawn to, is reality. So yeah,
that's good.
It's wonderful.
I'm glad I'm doing my job. At least I think I'm doing my job.
You are. So what's on the pipeline? What are we working on now?
Well, I'm working. Oh, what am I never working on anything, right? I just finished. I'm telling you, it's just recently right now, I got an email like, oh yeah, can you do 12 pages? I'm like, but I'm already working. He's like, oh, that's not due till next year. I'm like, all right, cool. Back to back. From the hundreds of commissions I'm working on, there are a couple of things. I just finished the pages for The Lost Pages. Do check that out. It's about anti-superheroes. If you're a big fan of that, I definitely recommend it. It's a really cool guy. It's like not even four. There's like about a good 10 of them. And each one with different powers. Mine was called Crimstone. So it's about a girl named Taz who has an imaginary friend who has him as a child, but as she gets older, she forgets him, and he comes back in a certain point of her life, and he's just really bloody crazy. It's like a mixture of Pit and Lobo and all other kinds of characters. So that one was fun. I'm about to do a 6-page one. Oh, God forgive me, I forgot the name of that one. Oops. Well, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm working on that 6-pager run right now, and that one's with like voodoo and like New Orleans style, so
Oh,
swamps.
wow.
So that one's gonna be
Yep.
cool. Like I said, I just got the 12-pager. That one's for Stomp, so that one's gonna be. It's with kaiju, so I'm all for
Oh, wow.
monsters. I'm all.
Fun. Fun.
The biggest one though that I'm working on right now, which I have to hopefully I get it done real soon. It's the 80-page graphic novel I'm working on, and that's called Memorial Ride, if I'm correct. It's another Native American story. It's like a war hero veteran who comes back and he's fighting these other like robbers, and it's gonna be really cool. It's like a cat and mouse kind of thing. I did the designs for it. Right now I'm doing the thumbnails, and hopefully it'll be done. That's gonna come out next year though, so definitely check it out for
Okay.
that one. And then personally for me, and I'm hoping I can get it done for next year or within 2 years, I'm working on 2 stories. One is called Spot and Dot, and hopefully that will be a graphic novel. It's about a little girl, a tomboy, who wants a pet so badly she captures one in her backyard, and you find out it's like a were-dog, and it's pretty fun because the catch of this is that every full moon he gets to turn into a human, so he's a reverse
Oh,
werewolf.
sure. Yeah.
So he gets to do what human things, what humans do. He gets to mow the lawn and go out to eat and pay taxes. It's a comedy. So that one I worked when I was in high school. I had it with my friend, so we're working on that one right now. And the ultimate one, which you've probably seen some artwork of it, of a big giant werewolf with a red
Yes.
jaw and who's always bloody. Right.
Yes.
That's the one
Yes.
everybody's waiting for.
Wednesday. Werewolf Wednesday.
That one is right. Every werewolf. You know what? I was gonna do regular werewolves, but I was like, just making an excuse to do artwork so I could put it for the book in the future. So that one is my baby. I've been working on it for almost 5 to 8 years now, I think. I would have to find like earlier sketches. That is called Crimson Jaw. It's a Norse mythology book. It goes around Norse mythology, and it talks about the tale of Fenrir, the son of Loki, and the fact that he didn't die on the day of Ragnarok. Actually, it's Loki and his children were supposed to get the throne, one to rule the earth, one to rule the ocean, the underworld, and Asgard. And because Ragnarok happened, it prevented them from getting what they, are destined to have. So Fenrir comes back to try to get back his family to, finish or fix Ragnarok and kill all the gods again. So it's pretty epic. It's a lot of, I've done so many character designs, world designing. That was my really big project, and I'm hoping to make it a graphic novel. With that one, that's probably going to be like a 120-page graphic novel, or even more, depending on how much I get done. I really would like to see that one, get really big.
Yeah.
Because I worked so hard on it. It got so much, it got so big, and so many people asked for it that I had to hire a writer, because I'm like, I'm horrible at writing, so I need somebody to help me out. Because I have chicken scratch. You won't ever be able to read any of my writing. I usually draw it out. So if you see my notes, it's nothing but a bunch of thumbnails. Like, yeah, this is what's gonna happen, and this cool fight scene could go down. So I am working with somebody on that one too. So we're hoping we can at least get like a teaser, like a taste of it by next year, and everybody could have like the first issue at least. And then after that, it's going to go straight to a graphic novel. I'm just going to make sure I make it a really big book, because if there's something I like about comics, it's when, you get home and you get this really chunky graphic novel, and you could just spend like, all your week reading it, and it's worth it because you're like, oh yeah, $30. Oh, so worth it, right? I don't care if I had to wait like a year. Right. So that's what I'm hoping. If that book has to take about a year or two to get done, that's fine. I'm taking my time with it just because I wanted to be, because I also gave a lot of people some promises. Every time they saw like the designs for it, they're like, oh, this is so detailed. I'm like, and I went to everybody and I told them at conventions, now imagine all that detail in one panel. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, and then they would leave. And then I would go and say, damn, I think I spoke too soon. So, and it's horrible because now when I make this comic, every panel has to be as detailed as the other one. So I'm like, well, I bit myself too early, and I'm like, oh well. So it's good. It's gonna be fun. It's a comic I've been. Oh, it's traditional. Everything's traditional. Paper? The only different would be is color and of course the lettering. Just because to play out with the color. I want to see how we could go with that. Lettering is also, we're going to play with that too. Everything's traditional. I like traditional. I like getting new materials. I like paper. And something about computers too. Like if I'm too much on a computer, my eyes are just like, they're like that. I can't keep doing that. I'm telling you, I'll just be drawing and then I'm like that. And so I'm just like, no, I can't do computers. I'll give it to somebody who could do computers. I'd rather be with, paper and pencil. And I'm fine. I'm fine with that. It's all great.
Are you going to go Kickstarter or Indiegogo for that? Are you going to get people behind you on that one?
I talked to the writer. He said Indiegogo. So he said you'll get more fans that way. You can have it prolong it. It could go as long as it wants, and you could add new rewards to it. I was like, you know what? Let's do that. Definitely. There'll be a lot of exclusive things too. We talked about that as well too. So, yeah, this is gonna be a big thing. Definitely. I'm just trying to get rid of everything else, but it's so hard because those are the comics I want to do. But every time I want to do them, then I get hired to do something, and I'm like, well, I gotta pay rent, I gotta pay food.
Gotta pay the bills.
So I'm like, right. I put them on the side. So when the day comes, guys, I promise you, Crimson Jaw will happen.
I'll be first in line. I'm excited for it. You're touching on things that I love: mythology, kind of almost horror genre, and big freaking monsters. Everything that I love all wrapped into one.
It's literally that. Like I said, I've done so much concept art for it, and when people see it, there's blood, there's gore, there's giant dragons, there's ice giants, fire giants, you got Vikings, you got this, and it's horror, it's gore, it's nothing but detail. And that's because that's how Vikings are. They're really badasses. That's how they are.
Yes, they are.
Come on, like Blood Eagle, that's like a good example, but no empathy. And that's just warrior code. You have no empathy. You kill your enemies. And what I like about Vikings is that they get upset when they don't die. They get really upset when they're in the battlefield and they survive. And I'm just like, that's some hardcore. To come back home, you're like, man, I didn't die. You kill 50 warriors and you're like, nothing. Brought home like gold and treasure, and you're like, you have like one scar around your eyes, and you're like, I didn't die. I feel so bad. And they're always saying, till next time, till next time.
Right.
So, I think that'd be really cool. And I like the story because it's one of my favorite things growing up. When the villain is the hero, when the villain is the person that's cool. I'm a big villain fan. I've always liked villains more than heroes because they had better stories or they look, 10 times better. So, and that's it. Fenrir is just this big giant guy who's half giant, half wolf, and he eats everybody. That's all. That's his, shtick. He's a god eater. He eats gods. So that's pretty cool too.
Sounds super amazing. Maria, are you taking commissions for SiouxperConline, or are you full right
Yes,
now?
I am. I'm taking a limited amount of commissions. I asked everybody, just, you could find me on Twitter. You could find me on Instagram. Facebook, at the Wolf Maria.
Sure.
Yeah,
And we'll put
definitely.
a link up
Please.
for everyone so they can contact you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I love commissions. Please, contact me. I love putting my own twist on commissions, and I think that's why people ask for my commissions, because they want to see what I'll take with their idea. So it's my big thing.
Very cool. I want to thank you so much for the energy, for spending some time with us. And I want one promise before I let you go.
Okay.
Next year, will you come in person? Will you come to Sioux Falls for our convention?
Oh, of course. Oh, you know what? That was when you sent me that email, I thought it was for an actual con. I was like, well, I guess I'm going to South Dakota. All right.
Well, we will have you come in. And then when sure.
Oh, please do. Please. I'm and that goes for any convention that's hearing. If you want a short, crazy, detailed, fun going artist, definitely contact me. I'm a big fan. I love people. I love talking. As you can see, I don't know when to shut up. It's the same thing with my art. I love working on art, and I don't know when to stop. So please, use my time. I could rest when I die. That's a good way to go with it. That is.
Going out, doing something you love. That's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Maria, thank you for your time, man. I appreciate you so much. Guys, check this out. Go out and find the Dear Woman Anthology. Find her all over Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Hit her up for some commissions. First come, first serve. We want to work her, but we don't want to work her to death yet. So,
all right.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Be safe and have a wonderful time.
Day.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Yes. Bye.